My husband asked me to flash some road workers. I did, and then he got mad and pushed me out of the car. Been together 10 years, married for 6. The last 2 or 3 years he's started to show less and less interest in me. He does subscribe to a couple of OnlyFans accounts, which I'm not bothered about as it's no different to so I know he still has urges. I've tried talking to him a couple of times about this and told him I'm getting bored and frustrated, and he knows I'm willing to try anything sexual. So if there's anything he wants to do to get him motivated, I'll try it. He just says duly noted and carries on with his day, which is frustrating. A few nights ago, we had friends round for tea, and we got onto the subject of commutes and roadworks, with them saying how their commute has more than doubled due to a road they use having roadworks. Carol, the wife of the couple, then says, "We've found a way to make it more entertaining though, haven't we?" to her husband, and they both started laughing. She then tells us that the roadworks are about 3 miles long with the groups of workers spread out to maybe 7 or 8 groups, and they are normally going 10 to 15 miles per hour. So when they get near one of the groups, he beeps and she flashes them, and they all cheer. I couldn't believe it, as they seem so straight-laced. That night, when they left, my husband was saying how brave it is of them, and that we should do it the next morning. I asked if he's sure. This is a man who didn't like when I posted a bikini pic on Facebook, and he said yes, and we even had sex that night for the first time in months, and he initiated for the first time in years. The next morning we were both at work, and as soon as he woke up he mentioned flashing me. I asked if he's sure and it wasn't just talk, and what if the men don't want to be flashed? He said he's sure and all men want to be flashed. We drive to the road and we see a group of workmen, and my husband gets all giddy and says, "Are you ready?" I say yes, and he says, "Now," and beeps his horn, and I lift my top up and they all cheer. We are going about 10 miles per hour when suddenly he slams his brakes on and tells me to get out. I was in shock. His face is red with anger and he's shouting, "Get out, you slag." I start crying and he's leaning over me, opening my car door, and then takes off my seatbelt and starts pushing me out. The cars behind are beeping as he's stopped traffic and he's yelling at the top of his voice. By now the workers have heard the commotion and 2 of them are rushing over to help. I turn to look at them and I do. He pushes me really hard and the top half of my body falls out of the car, and I put my hands down. One of the workers is screaming at my husband and starts trying to open his door. The other worker is by me and quickly drags me out of the car. He told me afterwards he saw my husband put the car in gear and thought he was going to drive off with me hanging out the car. My husband just left me. I was still only wearing a vest top and pajama shorts and my slippers as he'd wanted to rush out and do this. My phone was in his car and I didn't have any house keys. One of the workers took his jacket off and wrapped me up in it. They took me to a cabin that was their canteen and put the heater on and made me a cup of tea. I was so embarrassed. This lot had seen my and then seen me getting abused and then fell out of a car and then rescued me all in the space of 30 seconds. I kept apologizing to them and said it was his idea, but they said it's okay and it happens a few times a day and they are used to it. But I think they were just trying to make me feel better. They were laughing and joking with me and were all so sweet and funny. They asked if I wanted to ring anyone, but I don't know anyone's number apart from work, and I didn't want them picking me up wearing next to nothing from a building site. I asked if I could just ring a taxi, but they said I can't get in a taxi dressed how I am. The man I'm assuming was their team leader told one of them to drive me wherever I wanted to go, so I asked if I could go to my mom's house about 5 miles away. They gave me some spare work boots to walk across the mud to the van, and 2 of them drove me to my mom's, and they were really sweet and made sure I was okay, and even walked me to the front door. When my mom answered, I was hysterical and crying, and they told her me and my husband had an argument, and he left me by the side of the road. My mom offered them a drink, and I tried to give them their coat and boots back, but they said it's okay. I told my mom we were driving to McDonald's and got into an argument. I didn't tell her about the pushing or anything. She drove me home and let me in with a spare key she has. I packed some things and went back to my mom's. My husband had been home as my phone was on the table. In the 5 days since he's been ringing me nonstop saying he's sorry and he doesn't know what came over him. He said he heard someone shout, "Nice pair," and it made him angry. My friends are saying leave. He is obviously telling me to give him another chance. I'm 50-50, but if I do stay, I'm going to insist on couples counseling for us both and therapy, either for him or both of us. He says he doesn't want to involve other people in the relationship. It feels silly to throw it all away over a few seconds of madness, and I should have just said no when he asked me to flash, as I know he's quite insecure. I was blinded by finally getting some and attention from him and thought I could get more. I took the workers their jackets and boots back and also made them 2 cakes and bought them 1,000 bags of Yorkshire tea as a thank you. Update. I took people's advice on this sub and a couple of others and rang the police to report the attack. I spoke to the workers beforehand who said they'd back me up. They arrested my husband and then released him on bail but told him he couldn't stay at my house, so he's gone to his mum's. After the argument, he told all our friends that I had cheated. I hadn't wanted to admit to people that I had flashed, but I felt like the tide was really turning against me, and a lot of people were believing his lies. So I wrote a long message with a description of exactly what happened, plus pictures of my injuries including scrapes and bruises, plus screenshots of messages he sent, admitting he asked me to flash and admitting he hit me, although he did blame me, saying if I just got out like he asked, he wouldn't have had to do that. A few people apologized, most didn't, but I don't care anymore. I'm back home and he has to answer bail in a couple of months. The police don't sound confident they can get a conviction, but maybe that's how they are supposed to sound. I've spoken a little bit to a lawyer, but I can't really afford anything at the minute in that way. Been a sad few weeks, but an eye-opener, and I don't feel any guilt for getting the police involved or telling people what happened. Just working and keeping myself busy at the moment. Second story. My boyfriend stole my necklace and gifted it to his sister. IF. Have been with my boyfriend, I'll call him Adam, for almost a year now. I met him through my master's degree in the UK. When I was a sophomore in college, I had a long-term boyfriend, who I'll call Kyle, who took his own life. We were together for 3 years, and I would never wish the pain of losing someone like that on my worst enemy. When we started college, Kyle gifted me a locket with the word "most" engraved on the back of it. It was our thing. It meant he loved me most. Sappy, but it was ours. Since his passing, this has been my most valuable possession, and I do not go anywhere without it. It is my last piece of Kyle. After finishing my degree and struggling the entire time, I decided that I needed to get out of the town where everything happened and decided to study my master's degree in the UK, which is where I met Adam. He is the first person I have allowed myself to love since losing Kyle, and I really have loved our relationship up until this. If it is true, I will never be able to forgive him. Adam has always been insecure of Kyle, asking hypothetical questions like if Kyle was still alive, would I be with him, and what I prefer about him over Kyle, etc., etc. I usually dodge the questions and never give him an answer, as I don't condone these types of questions and don't want to feed into it. We have also had to have several conversations regarding Adam talking badly about Kyle. He also dislikes if I post about Kyle on his birthday or death anniversary or have hard days. He sees this as that I don't love him and am still hung up on Kyle. No matter how many years that pass and how much I love Adam, Kyle was my first and his life was cut short. He was also my best friend. I will mourn his life forever, even if I have moved on romantically. He knows how much this necklace from Kyle means to me and how devastated I've been the last 2 weeks frantically searching our apartment for it. I took a shower one day and set the necklace in the same place I always do when I came out of the shower. It was gone, and Adam swears he has no idea where it is, and it must have fallen somewhere and got lost. I have been beside myself, spent nights in tears over losing this. Adam has a sister who we will call Jane. Jane recently celebrated her 21st birthday. I am in her Snapchat private story where she posted the beautiful locket that her big brother got her for her special day. It was the same locket. I know it, because it has the same engraving on the back. I don't know how Adam explained that one, but he must have somehow. Me and Jane are not particularly close, and this isn't something I feel I can just confront her about casually. I also feel silly bringing it up to Adam in case it isn't the same locket, and I am just going insane and looking for excuses because I was careless and lost it. I don't see where else Adam would have got this locket, as it was made for me by a small business back in the States. She was local to Kyle and I, and her work has always been my favorite. Advice on how to ask Adam about this? I know if I do, he'll deny it either way, and this locket means the world to me. I need it back. Update. It's been almost 3 weeks since I posted and I didn't plan to update, but I've seen a few comments asking for one. A day or two after the initial post, I confronted Adam about the locket. He claimed did not know what I was talking about, and he couldn't believe I could be so cold as to accuse him of this. When asked for receipts, or any proof that the locket was not the same as mine, he couldn't produce any and got angry and stormed out of our apartment. He came back that night, tried to gaslight me into believing I was the one who created a problem out of nothing, and even that the necklace he got his sister had no engraving whatsoever. Unfortunately for him, I had contacted his mom while he was away, stating that I had misplaced my locket and was wondering if it had accidentally been taken home by Adam when he was visiting. She got back to me pretty quickly saying that she had found my necklace on her daughter Jane's present pile stacked away in a corner. She said that she would return the necklace to me as soon as possible, and that she or Jane must have mistaken it for one of her presents and put it back in the pile. She promised me that she would keep a hold of it in her room until she got the chance to return it. Immediately after I had confirmation that Adam's mom had the locket, I booked the cheapest flight home I could find and asked his mom for a lift to the airport. That way she could return the necklace. She agreed, and after that, I sat planning exactly how I would tell Adam that we were breaking up. I didn't need him to admit to stealing the necklace. The fact that I had enough doubt in my mind that I knew he had taken it was enough for me to know that this relationship was going nowhere. I just wanted my necklace back. I stayed with Adam until my flight, which was about a week ago. I let him and his mom drive me to the airport. I left a note, breaking up with him, telling him that my friends would be by to pick up my stuff and move it between their flats. I took a leave of absence from uni until I work out where I'm going to stay when I get back to the UK, and have contacted my landlord about taking my name off the lease. When Adam's mom gave me back my necklace, his face was priceless. He looked like a deer in the headlights. He was so angry, but he couldn't show it in front of his mom. His sister Jane hasn't once questioned the missing necklace, and it's been around 2 weeks now. I doubt she will ever notice. She is rather spoiled. I am glad to update that I am safe. I am back home with my necklace from Kyle. I am just home from visiting his grave, telling him this entire story and laughing about it. It reminded me that I should update and probably hold higher standards in men for myself. Thanks for your love and support. Third story. Mother-in-law putting Republican memorabilia in my baby's room. My husband, 34M, and I, 29F, are expecting our first child. He is an only child, and his mother, 65, is over the moon excited. She lives about a mile away, and my husband and I both work, so she has made a nursery at her house for the baby to stay. More on that later. Her and I have an okay relationship, not antagonistic, but we are wildly different. I was raised by a Gen X, cool mom where we talked about everything, and I was raised to be independent. We have our fights, but it's healthy, open communication. When I make a decision or set a boundary as an adult, that's respected without question in my family. My mother-in-law is a more typical, traditional mom, very doting on her son who was a perfect angel. In reality, he was just good at not getting caught and telling his mom what she wanted to hear. I give the context because the mismatch between how I'm used to communicating and how her and her son communicate is part of the problem. Now the story. My mother-in-law is a Trump supporter. My husband and I are very much not. We live in a conservative southern state, and I'm no stranger to Republicans. Some of my closest family members are Republicans, but none of them are Trump believers like my mother-in-law. Even if they were, they respect me too much to talk about it because they know where I stand. I usually try to do the same for my mother-in-law and steer conversations away from politics when I can. It is hurtful to me that she is voting against my rights. My state outright bans abortion. Every time I go to the doctor, I'm afraid something is wrong with the baby, and as a result, I will die. I'm trying to not let her political beliefs affect how I see her, but it's hard. That's when she sends me pictures of the nursery. She's done an elephant theme. Hanging on the wall is a painting with the Republican Stars and Stripes elephant. I had heard about this from my husband beforehand, but didn't realize how prominent it was. She told him, "I mean, I had to. I'm a Republican." When I first heard, I immediately freaked out. I think it's inappropriate to put anything political in a nursery. I know there will be some hard conversations down the road when it comes to what conversations I don't want to have with my kid, what I don't want on TV, etc. Republican signage over the crib feels like a bad omen. My husband's attitude is to pick his battles. He has no problem fighting with his mom if she crosses a line, but doesn't see the picture as a big deal. I feel that if a small thing is a point of contention, what's going to happen when it's a major boundary that needs to be set? He was fine with me handling the situation how I saw fit. I sent this message. The room looks great, but I can't say I like the Republican elephant hanging up there. I get y'all are, but I'm very much the opposite and don't really want that around my kid. Do you think we can take that down? It'd make me feel more comfortable. I got zero response. This isn't the first time where I've sent a message setting a boundary and gotten radio silence. Or we'd have a conversation over the phone and I'd think everything was resolved until my husband talked to her and she's still upset. To give my husband credit, he's not defending her in any way or taking her side over mine. He's just used to ignoring her and I'm used to hashing things out. He's out of town, but when he gets back, he plans on visiting in person and setting things straight. First, I need to know though, am I overreacting by being this bothered? Does the situation actually warrant fighting with my mother-in-law? I do not want to set a precedent of me being uncomfortable with something and saying nothing where my child is concerned. Minor update. Just a couple of points I clarified in comments I want up top. My mother-in-law has made a baby room at her house. We have our own nursery at our house that I'm decorating how I want. We were given 2 cribs, and they have an empty bedroom, so I had no issue, but there was no discussion prior. I never asked my mother-in-law to babysit. She assumed she would babysit when I returned to work, which is okay. She's retired and lives close by. I have no problem, before all this, with her being a part of my baby's life. We are not in a spot where her providing childcare is make or break. I work from home and have a flexible schedule. It'd be inconvenient, but mother-in-law babysitting a few mornings a week is more for her than us. I don't hate my mother-in-law. I don't think she's a bad person. She raised a son who is a wonderful husband and will be a great dad. She didn't force beliefs when raising him. It's a situation a lot of us are facing with our parents. 8 years of Fox News and the cult of Trump changing people we love into someone else. I'm trying to see the best in my mother-in-law and not hurt her in this situation. But nobody's feelings come before what I think is best for my child. Today I spoke with my husband about my concerns. He agreed that his mother needs to talk with me when I have concerns and follow any rules I set forth. He called her, but didn't think it'd be a fight because he believes in his mom. It did not go well. He is out of town, but when he gets home tomorrow, he is going over there to have it out. In his words, I'm handling it. Update number 2. I just heard my husband's side. He spoke with his mom for 30 minutes on the phone, and it was a disaster. For anyone saying this was a way of her testing boundaries, you were right. It started with mother-in-law acknowledging she read my text but didn't respond because she didn't think it was a big deal. He said, well, it is a big deal for my wife, and this needs to be resolved. She then goes into how we could use this as a teaching moment for how to be accepting. He reminded his mom she knows what our politics are, and she knew exactly what she was doing putting that up. The conversation then devolved into name-calling. At one point, she called him a fascist and said he needed to grow some balls if the picture bothered him instead of making it an issue when his wife said it was an issue. Very typical. Your wife is the bad guy trying to keep her away from grandbaby. As you can guess, this didn't go over well. He made it clear that her issue is not with me. Now that mother-in-law disrespected his wife, he's got a problem with her. I, wife, have given mother-in-law a lot of slack and not jumped down her throat for the offensive things she's said. It's mother-in-law that is putting politics over family. It was never about the elephant. He wasn't worried at first about her respecting our rules, but with how she's acting, he knows it's a problem. Conversation cut off there, but he is going over there in person tomorrow to start it right back up. He made it clear to mother-in-law this is not her child, and she does not have decision-making power. I'll update tomorrow if there's any big developments, but as of right now, I feel validated that something was indeed off, and I'm grateful that my husband and I are on the same page and supporting each other. 4th story. All right, folks, just a quick warning. This story might be a bit of a yuck for some. If you're squeamish, feel free to give it a pass. My girlfriend made me poop in a plastic bag. I'm M26 and my girlfriend is F30, and this is a throwaway account. We've been in a relationship for about 10 years and we're engaged. My girlfriend has always had problems with hygiene and cleaning of the house. She never did domestic activities in childhood, adolescence, and in adulthood, this behavior strengthened. Since we met, she has never really taken care of her house, and countless times I myself spent weekends cleaning and organizing her house over these 10 years. For about 3 years, she has been dealing with a depressive condition. She has access to medication, a psychologist, and all the necessary support in her treatment. In addition, I have helped her financially since the beginning of our relationship. I pay half of her rent, all the bills when we go out together, and some more financial help during the month. She has a good job, but doesn't know how to handle the money she earns. Lately, her house has been a real pigsty. I don't know how she manages to survive this way. There is no surface free of garbage or objects. She doesn't use dishes, so she doesn't have to wash. So it's always disposable plates, glasses, and cutlery that she simply throws around the house. The sheets smelled bad and the floor was dirty, but the worst was the bathroom. Somehow she managed to clog the toilet so nothing would go down the drain. The toilet was full of poop last weekend. I didn't know that. Every weekend I go to her house to be with her, and on that day, I really needed to poop. When I opened the toilet lid, I almost threw up my guts. I couldn't sit there. When I went to talk to her about it, she told me to open the toilet lid. I almost threw up my guts. I couldn't sit there. When I went to talk to her about it, she told me that she was doing her needs in plastic bags and that I should do the same. And well, I had to do it. There was no way to go out and look for a public bathroom or the mall, so I had to shit in a plastic bag. It was so disgusting and humiliating, and I felt very angry with her. After that, I had to walk down the 13 floors of her apartment to a trash can on the street with my poop bag. I felt tears forming in my eyes and a lump in my throat. I can't take this relationship anymore, and I don't know what to do. How can I leave her like this? My girlfriend's depression is ruining my life. Update. I really appreciate everyone who took some time to read my post and give me advice and kind words. Also for those who contacted me through messages to offer me help and support. I read all the comments you guys left, and so many of them were really encouraging and helpful. I never got the chance to talk about the situation in the past years of my life, and I've been very confused about how to navigate this right now. I really feel bad for her. I wish I could just take all the suffering she's been facing and fix it for her. Please, hope you don't get me wrong. I really care about this person and I only desire her to be happy and healthy. Right now I've got my eyes full of tears by acknowledging the situation I'm living in, and everyone who took a moment to talk to me, I'll be forever grateful. To clarify some things in case someone's interested. I met her when I was 16. I was in high school and she was in college. She lived in another city by the time, but 6 months into our relationship and she moved to my city. At first, her father supported her financially, but then he stopped. I already got a job by the time I was 17, so I started to take care of her financially in all of her needs. Eventually, when she was 23, she got the job she's currently in. It's a good company, medical insurance, financial assistance for food and all that. When she got the job opportunity, I thought things would get better for us since we were both managing to support each other, but it didn't happen. When she developed depression, I'm sorry if I didn't use it correctly. She started to spend more than she earns, and again, I needed to take over. She said that if I took her to live with me, we would be better financially speaking, but I can't do that because I still live with my mother. I'm currently building a house of my own, and it's still not done yet. Her depression got worse. She gained a lot of weight, almost doubled, and the cleaning situation got even worse too. I've been doing the best I can to be supportive, but nothing seems to get better right now. Anyway, again, I thank anyone who left a comment, a supportive word, and some advice. I'll seek help for myself with a professional so I can talk about it and hopefully find a way to live a better life. Well, that's all for this time. I've got more stories in the works, so stay tuned. If you're enjoying them, hitting that subscribe button would be amazing. It really motivates me to keep sharing.